And that park was recognized the best exhibition site according to Financial Times. She was chief curator of modern sculpture project, Kiev Sculpture Project, which took place in Kiev 2012. Still recognized as one of the events with the biggest attendance, 600,000 visitors. Andrei Sadovey is not here, I have mentioned that already, and Carl Slays, Chief Director, responsible for innovation and strategic partnership for OAE from Visa. We know the innovative solutions that were introduced in OAE. They are really famous. Let's greet Carl with a round of applause. And also we have another participant, and he's from Israel. And
There. And oh, finally, I have information about you. Thank you. Шломо Долберг, генеральний
Shlomo
директор Союзу
Dolberg,
місцевих
Director General for Association of Israeli Municipalities,
I've just flew
ULAI.
in from Israel yesterday, back to Kiev, and I'm impressed with the way the cities are built and infrastructure is done and how things are done, basically. Impressed with that. Okay, Katie, I'm going to leave you for the conversation for about an hour, and at 6 o'clock, I'm going to take the floor again. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Дякую, рада вітати на цієї дискусії. Мене звати
I'm Katie Ward. I'm Chief Advisor for Promise Project. Now we are discussing a very interesting topic, creativity, municipal development. We have international speakers who will discuss this topic from different angles. So they're going to discuss different aspects. Creativity, in my opinion, is the most important aspect for economic development of urban areas. Without creativity, there's no innovation, there's no development, and even the spirit or the culture of your city. We will discuss that in more detail, but then let me switch to the English language. Pick up your headphones if you need
So thank you
interpretation.
everyone to our international panel here to talk about a very important topic, which is creativity in cities. And what I researched all of our speakers, and what is so interesting is that we're approaching creativity in cities from 4 different perspectives, and 5 because I'll give my perspective as well. So really this will be a discussion, an opportunity for each of you to share the work you're doing, and then we'll have a conversation about it, because if you look about the evolution of cities, and I mean like, starting 10,000 years ago, we came together not because we wanted to talk about civic works and infrastructure and drains and ditches. This is not what we discussed when we formed cities. Cities were places of consecration and higher calling and creative, sacred acts. And so this is such an important part as cities evolve, and we continue the discussion, of course, about infrastructure and innovation and high tech. But something that's driving that is just the human desire to create. And you'll each speak about it from a different point of view, and each of your cities have so much to offer. So we'll start, we'll go by the agenda to be democratic, Canadian. That's how we do. And we'll start with Mr. Volaski, the Deputy Mayor of Gdansk. And actually, I just returned from Gdansk, where I had a delegation of Ukrainian mayors and deputy mayors. And we went there and were really blown away with the diversity of culture, diversity of development in the city. So maybe you can speak a bit from your perspective as the deputy mayor, what the strengths of our Gdansk from a culture perspective, diversity, and how that really supports the development of your municipality.
Okay. Can you see this is the tablet? But it doesn't mean that I'm smart. I still have the traditional notes. And I'm old-fashioned man, so this is the reason that I prefer the old ways. Of course, Gdańsk in his history and his tradition has tolerance and openness for the different cultures. It was generally typical for the harbor cities, but in our town during the history lives Scotsmen, Englishmen. Can you imagine that during the 16th and 17th century exists in our town Shakespeare Theatre? And now we create completely new. And this is typical for our town, which try to adopt these ideas of tolerance and of openness to all the people who want to live in the city like Gdańsk. And first of all, I want to tell you, if we talk about the creativity from the social point of view, is that we create a very special immigrant integration model, which try to prepare us for the problem which I think in the next years come to every most important towns in the Europe. If we think about the level of development in our town during next 15 years, we should to create 125,000 new places for job. And the question is, what the people will work at this place? Because our demography is not able to prepare the people for this. So we should to think about the immigrants, and we have to think about the special program which prepare our inhabitants for the new citizens of our town and new citizens to living in the new culture and the new conditions. Generally, if we talk about the development, how many time I have?
You're good, lots of time.
If we talk about the smart cities, innovative, most of us is fascinated by the new technology. But we should to remember the new technology is only a tool. It's only a tool. It's the better sharpened pencil. It's not the aim. It's not the goal. The main goal is to prepare the conditions living, better conditions living for the people. And of course, technology help us to manage it, this process. And for example, we have a special technology which inform everyone about the traffic problems, about the jam, but not only it exists to the one way, and the people, inhabitants, can inform the management board about the accidents, and not only the car accidents, but about the accidents in the infrastructure, and the hole in the city, in the local road. It's a very, very important. And we create a special Gdańsk Contact Center. This is the integral call, like the same on the national level is the secure call. The same is in our town, that it's only one number and everyone can for every possible matter can call to this place and inform and ask about something. We prepared the digital document management. So every people who make an application to our town can check at what desk, in which desks that moment. We have a special Gdańsk Club. This is the voluntary project for the city hall employees who engage themselves in the creation of new idea for improving the manage. And for example, 3D visualization we use during the procedure of the local detailed urban plans, which are the base for the permission for build. We try to show to every people and try to engage them to this process to make a decision of urban decision. We try to show them how probably it will look during the next years. Very important is that we are very open and transparent. We have a special program connected with open data. This is the way to raise a social awareness, improve level of trust, engage the residents, and create a platform to cooperation for business. We have a special Gdańsk budget program, which shows which part of individual taxes go to every activity of the town. Every inhabitant, every man can put his incomes to this special calculator, and it calculates the taxes and show which part of these taxes goes to the education, to the culture, to the investments, to the infrastructure, services, and something like this. Of course, very important is idea about the expeditors register. And we show every contract, every service obligation, every service and purchase too. So how can we spend the public money for every activities? And it's show the big money for investment, but a small money, for example, for a dinner with the guests of the town. So everyone can check it, show it, and ask why did you do it? And very interesting is city's price list. Then, for example, you can show how many costs is connected, for example, with the giraffe in the zoo in our town. It shows the implementation and the relation between the private and the public money. And it's very clear, and it's a very good solution for understanding for the inhabitants what kind of way thinking is connected with the government. And of course, we have a special tool which we call Civic Panel. We are the first city which try to use it. The Civic Panel is a special kind of discussion that we select in the random way the people who represent different specialists and try to discuss with the specialists from the special kind of what we discuss. For example, the flood problem. So it open the area of discussion and try and show us how many implementation is sometimes which we never think about it. And quite new solution, this is the resident card. Resident card, it's a new product which allows the residents to enter to the 10 top culture and leisure time attraction for a free way. We know it was 2 weeks ago we created, and now we know that 30,000 cards exist now. So it's during the 2 weeks it was very, very popular now. And the participatory budget, if I remember, Mayor Klitschko said about it. And it's very the same, very similar tool. This is the Ideas Hub. And we help people create valid projects for public budget and voting for it. And you may vote on internet or in places where computer access is provided by the city. It's depend to you. So this is the many activities which are connected with the IT technologies, with application, with the telecommunications. But very important is the program connected, for example, with the revitalization. We have 4 districts. In our town, we have 12 districts, and 4 districts which are in a very bad conditions, technical and the social conditions. And we invest 50 million euros for changing this situation. We invest in the infrastructure, in the housing, but we invest in many social programs which help to go out from employment people. We fight with the exclusions. So it's very popular. For example, the last week we spent a lot of time with the local people and discuss about new projects for the public spaces in these areas. And we spent this huge money for new architectural and urban design, which prepared for them the place for better solution better relation, social relation, and they have a very big influence for this solutions. And this is maybe in the first.
Yeah, that's a lot. And what's interesting, I'm sure maybe everyone on the panel is aware, maybe not in the room, of the Creative Cities, Creative Economy model. Written by Richard Florida in 2005, it became a very popular paradigm for economic development. And I don't know if you know the model, but you mentioned the 3 top things in this model, which is tolerance, technology, and
Це
talent.
толерантність, технологія, талант. Це чи 3?
Exactly, yes, of course, because Gdansk knows this model because they're living this model and leading this model. But it's so great that you started with tolerance as the foundation of the discussion for city development, because right now it's a huge challenge around the world with immigration and with new cultures integrating in societies around the world. And part of a creative, innovative city is to figure out how to integrate that new knowledge, the new cultures, the new styles that are coming into your city. And when we were in Gdansk, we certainly felt that was happening, and that becomes a foundation for citizen engagement, for all of the revitalization projects that are happening. You have such a rich input from citizens because you have this tolerant approach. And then, of course, this is a conference about innovation, and so naturally we're going to talk about technology and how technology has become the platform to
Але платформою для того, щоб
or other ways in which you engage with your citizens. So I think what Gdansk has done is a really fascinating model. And so thank you for showing, how there's this economic theory, a creative cities theory with tolerance, technology, and talent, this big idea, but it's very easy to implement in municipalities.
This every information you can find on our official website.
Yes, and it's a great website.
Gdańsk.pl and so on.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Helen from the Yorkshire Sculpture Park. What an incredible example of how a city can cultivate and showcase creativity. So Helen, please tell us a bit more about this project and what you're doing.
Thank you, Katie. Yorkshire Sculpture Park was founded in 1977 in a historic aristocratic estate, and it started just as one single exhibition. And it is in the West Riding of Yorkshire, which is a very industrial, blue-collar area. And there was no appetite for contemporary art in 1977 in West Yorkshire. It is something that has grown very gradually, and I've worked there now for 16 years. I used to go as a school child on school visits, so it's very close to my heart. And it now employs 200 people. We contribute £10 million to the regional economy every year. We don't just create exhibitions and artist residencies in our 200-hectare site with 4 galleries and a chapel, but we work extensively overseas as well. So through our network recently, for example, we've established an art school in Kurdistan, Iraq, and I did a project in South Africa last year. And there are very many quantifiable benefits to culture in place. So there is a lot of economic research into, for example, the Venice Biennale, which was established in 1895, now is the largest contemporary art festival in the world, generates a huge amount of income, has 500,000 visitors every year. Similarly, the Guggenheim in Bilbao, which opened in 1998, that has nearly 1 million visitors every year, over half of which are from outside Spain. It contributes nearly 180 million euros to the regional economy every year through visits, tourism, accommodation, catering, shopping. So the quantifiable benefits are very, very apparent. They're very strong. We know our argument with our national and local governments is that for every pound of public funding we receive, we put 5 back into the economy. So there is plenty of evidence, but for me, what's really important is the quality of life that culture can bring to a place. It can help with pride, with local identity, with national identity, but in a very positive way. So often we work with international artists who will come to some of the poorest parts of Britain. So we work very closely, some of our cities, suburbs, of high areas of deprivation. And for example, I worked with Carlos Garcoya, who's a Cuban artist, a very famous Cuban artist, and he came to Castleford, this very small town, high unemployment, low education, and he said he would only do a project there if he felt very strongly it was the right, if he was inspired, he wouldn't do anything for the sake of it. And he went away for a couple of weeks and we didn't hear anything, and then he said, it's like Havana. It's this faded, industrial, beautiful town, and for me it speaks to me like Havana speaks to me. So for the local people of Castleford, who very rarely have a voice, who are very rarely heard in national government, for this important Cuban artist to actually respond to their town gave them so much pride and so much self-respect. And so now he has done his project, but they have started a grassroots arts organisation. They've bought a mill, which was a former flour mill, which was becoming derelict. And they've found the money to do that, and they're working as volunteers within their community to build a cultural centre, which has a bar, it has a brewery, has a bakery, and it's a real grassroots. And that's one of the ways that big organisations can actually support at a very local level. And I think one of the really important things in the UK is that creativity is being cut from the curriculum at every stage of a child's development. And we feel very, very strongly that a creative approach to learning will mean that the child, the adult, is the most fulfilled person they could be. That isn't to say they'll all be artists or architects, but we need creative scientists, we need creative surgeons, we need people to think creatively. That's the only way we're going to have innovation. For me, musicians are the heartbeat of the city, artists are the heartbeat, and you'll notice wherever artists go, they kind of colonize a district. That's when that is the start of that district becoming a place that people want to live. And it's really sad for me that cities like London are becoming too expensive for artists. So artists from London have moved to Berlin. Now Berlin is becoming too expensive. So there's real scope to encourage artists from all over the world to kind of build communities and build creative centres right in the heart of cities. And that, I think, is where innovation really truly will come, and where it's a place that a lot of people want to live. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since we don't have any photos, unfortunately, but everybody should go online and just look at the incredible photos of the Yorkshire Sculpture Park. If I remember correctly, it's 500 acres.
Exactly, yes.
It's 500 acres, open air, modern sculpture, contemporary sculpture, and it really, I was trying to transport myself there through my computer screen to experience that space. And because actually I think it was Winston Churchill who said, we construct our cities and then our cities construct us. And so public space is so important to the creative trajectory of cities, not just the creative trajectory, any trajectory of a city. And so when you create a space that allows for art and expression, you create a space that allows for innovation. And this is also, there's a lot of, you mentioned the economic impact, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're talking to governments, they want to know, so what? That's nice, sculpture's nice, but what does it actually do for my community? And there's a lot of research to show that art should be valued for art's sake, and culture should be valued for culture's sake. But reality is, it has a significant impact on the economic development. Have you seen, other than visitors, have you seen spin-off from this inspiring other small, medium businesses? Have you seen other industries coming up because of the presence of this park?
Absolutely. Because of the Sculpture Park being founded in 1977, the national government actually started the Henry Moore Institute in Leeds 30 years ago. So there's another big art centre library, which is internationally renowned for research. And then we have the Hepworth Gallery, a David Chipperfield building, which opened 5 years ago. So we are now what's called the Sculpture Triangle, which isn't like the Bermuda Triangle. It's not where sculptures go to disappear. It's very much a branding and tourism exercise, where we have now got, we just got £750,000 from the Arts Council to start a sculpture triennial, so that we will work together. And we do that because we want to work with artists and because we want to create wonderful creative experiences. But we also are very articulate in the way that that can serve tourism, business. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And it's one of the, it's, as you said, when artists, I've been doing economic development now for a long time, many different countries, many different cities. And it's true, when artists move into a district and start to gentrify it, maybe that's not the right word, but they start to create, it's like a magnet. All of a sudden you start to attract interesting coffee shops, interesting restaurants, and then ultimately the IT companies are going there because IT work is actually very creative work and they want to be inspired. So they're looking at this art and they're having an idea for code and it becomes this really interesting ecosystem. So thank you for sharing. I'm now very inspired to go and see because and everybody go online, Google it, and you'll just see some incredible works and a really interesting interpretation of space. So thank you very much for sharing the example. I'd like to invite Mr. Carl Thalles, the Director of Innovation Strategic Partnerships, United Arab Emirates. I think it's Visa, right?
Yeah, for Samia, actually.
Okay,
yeah.
So tell us more about what you're doing in this direction, whichever mic you'd like.
I think this works. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me here today, and really excited about this whole gathering. Just to give you some background, I guess one of the most important things to recognise from a Visa perspective is that we're part of an ecosystem when we're working together. It's not just with traditional banking sector clients. We're working closely with government, working closely with the startup ecosystem, the fintech ecosystem in multiple markets. If I look at the UAE, where we are headquartered as a hub for the Samia region, Samia represents 93 markets for us, Central Europe, Middle East and Africa. We've just recently announced that Dubai is our global smart city centre of excellence. And there's a reason for that. It's not just because it's all about the, I guess, the infrastructure you see and the developments you see, but there is a real public-private partnership engagement going on. And what we're doing there is we're helping foster that through multiple angles. So on the one hand, we're part of a number of different key consortiums to help bring about key smart city microservices into the market. So when we're talking smart cities, you can't hear? All right, sorry. Maybe I'll use the mic. I'm not sure how much of that you actually gained. All right, that's better. Okay. So just to recap, so Dubai for us is a hub, a central hub for Central Europe, Middle East and Africa. We manage 93 markets out of there. But we recently announced it as being the global smart city centre of excellence for Visa, and there's a reason for that. One is we're part of a very close-knit consortium which is helping bring about key microservices which are the fundamental part of a smart city. So I guess when I look at Visa's approach to this, it's about the ecosystem. It's about a public-private partnership model. And what do I mean by that? So fundamentally, if you want to bring in a microservice into the market, one of the most important aspects of that is, what are the challenges to bring it in? So in the innovation group, which is what I represent, and the strategic partnerships that we drive through that, is to solve for real problems and challenges which are limiting or restricting us from bringing these services into the market. And Dubai is sort of become for us a nerve center or a hive where a lot of the industry players on a regional level are based there. From a technology point of view, there's a grand vision certainly from a governance angle, which is fostering this. And together with that vision and with the key technology partners that we work with, it's naturally for us a key area to sort of go and develop some of these solutions to these problems. What we've recognized is over the course of the last couple of years is that the challenges are spread across really three key areas. One is around access to data. So to be able to bring real smart city services into the market, government needs to release some data. And that's in order to foster government to business, business to consumer, and even government to consumer services. So if I take Dubai as an example, they've got an app which is called the Dubai Now app. And that really allows you to engage with government services provided by the Dubai government. So whether it's your driving license, whether it's your house registration, your residency, it's all on there. But what's really important about this app, it's just the beginning. So I actually last week was sitting in a working group to look at how do we evolve to digitalize real microservices in the market. And what we looked at was, what if that became not just a government app? What if that became a platform which brings together the government services and the private sector services on the one area. And if you think about it, it's actually not that difficult. It's really about opening access to data. Dubai has a smart office department which has now recently opened up 3 data sets. And we as Visa, we're obviously working closely with that consortium to bring that to market. But if I think of a journey, the journey of a consumer, and I look at myself, if I'm commuting from my home to work or to an event, there's a lot of touch points there which revolve around both government and private sector services. And we took one example. We thought, well, if I'm commuting from the commercial city of Dubai to the capital of Abu Dhabi, and let's just say I wanted to drive there and I wanted to park, where do I park? And so there's always an issue with parking. Where do I get my lunch when I arrive there? And you're starting to think about this as stress points when you arrive. A real smart city is about tying together and getting rid of those stress points. And the way we looked at it was, if I drive up there, wouldn't it be great to have let's just say an integration on a cloud platform, this UAE Now app rather than Dubai Now app, and have a government parking spot available, whether through the local RTA, the Roads and Traffic Authority, or if not, what about a fintech? How about a startup, which in Dubai there are a number of those, who have access to private parking spots in buildings, which are generally unused? And wouldn't it be great to have access to that? And at the same time, so when I arrive at my destination, I've already made the payment for that access virtually through that app. And then when I'm there, wouldn't it be fantastic to then get my lunch delivered to me through maybe like an Uber Eats or a Deliveroo or some other service? Now that becomes a real smart, intelligent platform, which is providing me that ease of use and sort of consumer experience on my journey. And it is a journey through a city, whether it's a small city or whether it's a large city. So that's the kind of work that we're working on, and it's really a hive activity for us being there.
That's great. Thank you. What I think it's particularly relevant to the discussion about creativity is data and innovation and data and creativity. I've worked with several Canadian cities on this, opening data, to creatively solve problems in municipalities, because governments don't always have the right approach, and there's a lot of active citizens, there's a lot of active artists, there are a lot of active people who will take that data. I'll give 2 examples. One was this is the city of Toronto. There was a bunch of activists and artists who wanted information about libraries, books, and usage data. And so finally, okay, fine, like what harm can be done by putting out this data? So they did. And these hackers, these young people, mapped the usage of the books to the demographics living in the neighborhood. And they found that the books were in the wrong libraries, that people were traveling across the city to get books from this library, and Toronto's a big city. So that's a lot. And if you're like a single mom and you've got to travel, across the city to get a book, because all the good kids books about learning languages are in this library, it's a hassle. So it's allowing, not just on opening data, it's allowing other, not just governments, but citizens, activists, artists to take that data and create something meaningful. The city I worked in, we had a huge problem with garbage pickup. This is a real challenge in many municipalities. And some hackers or young guys said, look, just give us some data. And they created a live app to track when garbage will actually be picked up. And so it took a while, though, to convince the municipality that the municipality did not understand the value of the data and how it could be used. It was the technology people and the artists on the other side saying, we could solve a problem if we had access to information. And I think this is part of the discussion. It's really the technology and creativity in that we need to allow citizens to take that initiative and create. We had transit apps, all of this stuff created that the government didn't have the knowledge how to do it or the motivation, frankly. But by giving data and making it public, solutions were created. And I think this is why technology in municipalities and the smart city is so fascinating, because it allows a new level of problem solving and creativity that governments aren't thinking about, because they're still very bureaucratic in that approach. So thank you for sharing that vision of like a journey through a municipality, because if we think about our daily commute or our grind, whatever you want to call it, there's many points where if we had innovations along the way, it would make it smooth. So thank you for leading that work. I would like to invite Mr. Dolberg, CEO. I'm not sure if I don't remember the acronym, but I know you are head of the Association of Israeli Cities, and which is so important because I'm from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and it's so important to have a membership approach to the development of municipalities. So I'd like, tell us a bit about your organization and what you're doing to really drive innovative management at the municipal level in Israel. Of course.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for having me. It's my first time to Ukraine, and I'm very happy to be here, especially because my father was born in Ukraine 110 years ago in a little town called Chernovici. Is there anybody here from Chernovici? Chernovtz. Okay, nobody right now. I'd like to thank especially to the Western Nice Fund. Thank you for organizing this wonderful summit. I would like to speak about our organization, a little bit about smart city. Even everybody calls smart city in his own definition. Federation of Local Authorities in Israel contains 250 local authorities. The bad news are that we have only 5 women which serves as a mayor. 5 women from 250 mayor in Israel. So as we heard this morning, we have a lot of work to do in this field, and I accept all what was said in this matter. We have 2 main roles. One role is to represent, to advocate the local authorities in front of the central government, in front of the national institute. You know that every governmental office is leading the national policy of his profession, but actually the local authorities are the executor of this policy. And I heard this morning the respectable mayor from Sweden, and I think you are a very, very happy man. Very, very happy man, because I understand that you have the most authorization that you need to do good things for your community. Unfortunately, we in Israel are having the British central system, so we need the government for most of our activity for the population, and I'm going to speak about this later. I'm not going to be unpolite, but I was consulting with Irena, and I want to speak 2 words about our convention, Muni World, in February in Tel Aviv, because this convention is dealing with smart cities, and I think that everybody who is here can be very interested in this summit in Tel Aviv. You know, the weather in Tel Aviv in February is much better than in Kiev. So I'll take this opportunity to invite you all to this conference. I'm going to speak about a few examples that you could be able to see practically in this convention in Tel Aviv, February 2018. This convention would be a very large international convention, and the main two main topics would be the cyber attack and the emergency. You know that this is something that we can speak about. And speaking about terrorism events, speaking about natural disasters, or even infrastructure crises. All these crises are in the hand of the mayor to solve, and we will present some very, very modern methods to deal with. And the other topic is the MOA, which I called a municipal incubator for startup, for high-tech startup. Municipal incubator, we take these young startupists and we give them official office services, and we are letting them to succeed in their first years. So everybody is invited to this event. I will put brochures here in the secretary, and you are most welcome. How you implement a smart city, in my point of view, of course, you will have to give better efficiency, resource preservation, and of course you should increase the quality of service. This is smart city from my point of view, and we can speak about some examples. For example, Modi'in is the first smart city after Tel Aviv. I'm going to speak about Tel Aviv in a few minutes. And there in Modi'in, you can find various smart city parameters. For instance, the stores are equipped with sensor to control the public transportation. The trash cans are equipped with sensor. I think the mayor of Kiev this morning spoke about it. So when the trash container is full, the sensor are sent signs and municipality is coming to evacuate it. Water level recognition buoys in the city lake are helping to manage the lake of the city. All public toilets are equipped with pipe, with recognition sensor. Security camera, I heard that in Kiev they are using this method of security camera. You know, security camera is a very, very interesting way to manage the city, to manage the law enforcement, to see everything that is going on the city with very, very advanced sensors. Tel Aviv is a very special city from the digital point of view. You know that, I'm not sure, but I'll tell you that Tel Aviv was announced as the smartest city in the Barcelona Expo event in 2014. In Tel Aviv, you can find online citizen information. You can find free Wi-Fi all over the city, municipal free Wi-Fi. It's a service which is given by the municipality of Tel Aviv all over the city. You can have business licensing online. As a business, it is very important for the better service. And of course, you can make online appointment with the senior officers of Tel Aviv online. Few samples. How much time do I have?
You have about 3 minutes.
3 minutes, it's enough for me. I'm going just to announce a few high-tech companies which are doing special special high-tech smart city project. SpaceX is a high-tech project which helps you to find parking in Tel Aviv. It's a problem in all over the large city. Pink Park enable you to rent your private parking when it's possible and you are not using it. Reporti is a very special medium to transmit hazard messages, even if you don't have cellular net available. The hope on, you know, it's a smart ticketing. The Zen City is the way, is a very, very modern way to announce the municipality about problems. And the green queue is the smart trash removal, which I was speaking before. I'd like to give very important advice to any mayor who is going to begin his way in this very important way of smart city. Do not do anything before you are going to check the legal position, the legal backing to this project. Because if you will not have the legal backing to the project, you will waste your time. For instance, I'd like to give you an example. In Israel, one of the problematic problem, according to environment in the cities, is the shit of dogs in the street. Everybody knows this problem. And somebody came with a nice idea to create a database of the dog DNA. You can take it each year from the vet coming to have the injection, and to send to the man who owns the dog penalty after you find this shit. Maybe it's a good way to solve this problem, but we didn't have the legislate the legal backing from the central government, so this idea was not advanced. Unfortunately, I cannot speak about practical achievement in this field. I'd like to thank you, and please let me invite you again to our conference in Israel. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great to see, I think members, and actually a partner of this conference is the Association of Ukrainian Cities, also a membership-based organization, and it's great to see leadership from that level pushing for innovative and smart growth in municipalities. So I'll try to wrap up the narrative I heard here, and then we'll open the floor to questions, because creative cities, smart cities, innovative cities, it's fluid concepts, complex concepts. But if we talk about, we can't talk about smart cities without talking about creativity. We can't talk about innovation without talking about creativity, right? This is sort of the foundation. And I think what we heard from the mayor, from the deputy mayor of Gdansk, and what we heard from Helen and from Mr. Thalis, Thal, thank you, and certainly from Mr. Dolberg, is that there's a couple of things that need to be in place. Tolerance, I love that idea. We have to be open to new ideas and involving new people in the process, because we don't know the answers ourselves. Technology, obviously. This is the new reality of the way municipalities are evolving, the way social and cultural aspects are evolving. Talent. We need people, and the talent aren't always the people you are going to expect. It could be the young person in the cafe making a sketch of the park that they're looking at, or it could be an engineer. We don't know. We have to be open to new forms of talent. And I like the piece that you brought again from Gdansk is transparency. And this also speaks to open data, and it speaks to a lot of pieces that we have to be able to open up and share ideas, share decision making, and share information, so we can create this ecosystem that fosters innovation, that fosters smart processes, that fosters creativity. So I thank you for your very diverse perspectives and approaches to this. because it's all part of the dialogue. Cities are complex, and so to have these different perspectives is very, very worthwhile. So thank you. Questions from the floor or comments from the floor about this valuable topic? Okay, here. Можно microphone. Кто ма... Okay. Test. Maybe. It might work. Try. Okay.
Okay. My name is Alex Lubetsky. I'm actually, you told about Chernivtsi or Chernod?
Chernivtsi.
Yes, I'm from Chernivtsi. Yeah, so it's a pleasure. So actually, it's a question for you. I represent Israel and technological company. So to the Rabba for your presentation. It was very nice and very interesting. And a question for me. What is your opinion about the smartest cities, the smartest cities of the state of Israel, except like Tel Aviv and Medellin? What else, what cities you can name? Because we know like it's easy to be Tel Aviv, it's easy to be Kyiv, it's easy to be Amsterdam or any others. But right now we have like the most part of the mayors are from the small cities, like 50,000 or even like 10,000 or even less. So they are also the cities. So this is my question. Ta-da.
It's a very good question. And first of all, to be a smart city, you have to be a strong city. You have to be a strong city. You can be a strong city if you are a big city or if you are, let's say, little city. But to be strong is economically, financially strong. In Israel, we have 250 local authorities. 60 of them are strong in, let's say, acceptable parameters. Only if you are a strong city, you can be a smart city. If you are not strong, you can teach, you can learn from the others. You can come to the convention, you can learn about the new methodology, but the first condition is to be strong economically and professionally. That's my answer.
I would say actually it's really important as well not to forget the rural. I live in a village and the local city to the sculpture park has only 125,000 people. And so culturally it's kind of punching above its weight. But it's really important in thinking about cities to try and, not everyone wants to live in a city, and I think it's important that city-based politicians and town planners remember that, and that the infrastructure still needs investing in rural locations as well.
And also it depends on, this is, we haven't arrived at this, but there's many definitions of smart cities and creative cities. And so it's going to vary by region. I've worked now in 6 different oblasts in Ukraine, and they're different. I've worked in 14 countries, everywhere's different. So it's difficult to have one narrow definition. And size should, it's not really important in this context because you can go to villages and towns and have exceptional, creative, smart places. As long as there's good leadership. Maybe Gdansk wants to add something.
May I add something? Of course, it's not a problem, the local government, the local communities which live near the metropolitan area, because the influence of the big city and the small cities, they cooperative, and it's not a problem. The problem is with the province and the peripheral area. This is the real problem, and this is the brutal truth. So if you have no idea for the good product which offer to the people, you have no the future.
Yeah, just to sort of add one more point to all of this, I think it's also important to recognize that you've got to break it down to solve one problem. And ultimately, if you solve problems that citizens can relate to, that's where you can start the process of enabling those citizens in that community with a smart service. I think you've got to think of it from that angle. Smart services equals smart city. So if you start from the ground, whether it's to solve a problem like cleaning poo on the street from dogs, or in terms of solving my problem of going to another town just to park my car because there's no street parking, you've got to start with those basics. And if you have that, then you can start to elevate. And microservices are the key. Smart cities is just really a terminology out there that's been around for a decade. But it's breaking it down and solving small problems that can then be elevated.
Excellent. Thank you. Other questions? Do we have time? Where's our boss? Okay. Thank you. Have to, you can play past the mic.
I have a compliment and a question. About 15 years ago, a man named Thomas Friedman wrote a book called The World is Flat. In the book, he argued that since Global Crossing and WorldCom laced the world with fiber optic cable, they all went bankrupt. That was the bad news because they oversupplied. The good news, it opened up the world to information never possible before. And he argued that it used to be that someone mediocre in Chicago, where I come from, where I was born, had access to libraries. But a genius in India, in Mumbai or Bangalore, someplace like that, didn't have the same access I did. Now they have that because of internet capability. But that costs money when you hire an internet provider. So I want to compliment Tel Aviv in Israel because they provide free Wi-Fi in Tel Aviv. And I would argue, and I would ask the question, if it's worked so well for Israel, and by any measure, Tel Aviv and Israel are really a bastion of creativity, innovation, and new products and new invention, why don't we, mayors in other towns, if they want to spur innovation and production and creativity, produce free Wi-Fi for those who can't afford it to produce more productivity?
That is a great question. Absolutely. If you want to address that or comment?
Thank you for the warm words. I listened to Prince Constantine further before, and he was thinking positive about things which are done in Israel, and I thank him for this. I think it's right that free municipal Wi-Fi will be in every town. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It is very, I think, I'm not an engineer, but I think technologically it is very easy to do. You just have to want it. If you want it as a mayor, you can do it with little budget, with little efforts, but you can do it. That's my answer.
With political will. With political will, with the government.
Of course, the political will is on the background of every decision of a mayor, but this is quite legitimate.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a great point made that there are cities in the world that have made this service, almost a vital service, free to citizens, and it has a huge impact on their cultural development, their economic development. Because it's not just about innovation from a business point of view, but also from a social point of view, learning point of view. So I think it's an important discussion to raise, and we can use Tel Aviv as an example and other cities as well. Thank you very much. Any other questions, or it's time to wrap up the day, I think? Oh, one more, okay. Ostani.
Доброго вечора.
Good evening, Vishneva Sergeyna Gornyak, the Deputy Mayor of Gdansk, please. Which tools do you use to sustain and create stimuli for your young people? Because we know that there is outflow of the qualified workers from Poland to Great Britain, Scandinavian countries, Germany, and the outflow of specialists happens from Ukraine to Poland. So what are the incentives for the citizens to stay in your cities? Because there is a global competition between the cities to get more qualified stuff.
So the question is following. How do you manage in Gdansk this thing. You know that many Ukrainians are leaving Ukraine for Poland, let's say. So Gdansk is a very prosperous and actively developing city. And how do you manage to make sure that you maintain that amount of intelligent and smart people in your city, not like by not letting them out to other cities or other countries, but what do you do to actually positively ground them in the city?
The most important is the good place for job. Maybe it's the paradox. We talk about the creativity. Of course, it's very important. It's create the very good surrounding of your living. You can spend in a very attractive way the free time. You have a very good culture list offers. But very important is a good job. And good job is connected with the labor market. And the labor market is connected with the education. So many activities which cooperate, and it's not straight from the administrative decision that some interesting companies come to Gdańsk. Of course, we help to invest in our town. We try to help the private sector which invests in the bureau services. For example, a few years ago, we have no good places for bureaus, for BPO sector, which helps to coordinate, to manage the big companies. And the private sector take a risk and invest the money. And it was the reason that the attractive city with very good place for living, with culture, with education, with the sea, with the forests, absolutely help to make a decision to the big company to come to Gdańsk. And still it's developed, still it's rise up. So the key is the good jobs, and I can explain. It's not the one magic touch or something like that. It's a comprehensive solution.
I agree with what was said, but I'd like to add, if you want to look at this matter from the eyes of young people, it's very important to have a very good and quality of the education system. You said it, I'd like to emphasize it. Education system, because if you are young parents, you want your child to have a good education, to live in a very good area, and maybe they can find a job outside of the city, but education must be inside the city.
This is a really relevant question, because with technology, since we're talking about it, talent is more mobile. They're making, and I'm a talented person, we're making different decisions about how we live our lives. And we are choosing cities that are comfortable. We're choosing cities that have a level of cultural intelligence or creativity that inspires us to work. And so you see with the democratization of technology that, yes, we talked earlier this morning about this migration of youth to big cities. But then after a few years, maybe they've reached a level in their career, they're starting family, priorities are changing, they're migrating out, and they're choosing smaller municipalities with great culture, comfortable living, green parks, all of these other places. And so I think this becomes a question. It's not just about having a good job is a start, but we find, at least in the Canadian context, a lot of people leaving good jobs in the big cities and settling for maybe less paying job, but a better lifestyle. So people are starting to look at quality of life. And I think that's a question it's a big challenge for Ukraine, because people leave for jobs, but they may also leave for a different quality of life. But this is not unique to Ukraine, this is happening around the world. And so I think for municipal leaders, it becomes a question of making the city attractive, not just as an employment destination, but as a living destination. People live in a city and actualize their life. We're human beings. We live in a city and we become people and we have lives. So we have to, from a municipal leadership point of view, keep that in mind as well, especially with these migration questions, because we need to attract citizens, especially in Canada. So it's the job ecosystem, it's the culture ecosystem, it's the data ecosystem that keeps the people or invites them and brings them into your municipality.
Yep.
One sentence. Do you have a problem with the smog?
Smog?
With the smog.
Чи є у нас...
Smog, fog, туман.
You asking us or Katie?
Asking you.
У нас є проблема зі
In
смогом в Києві? Смог.
Because
From time to
location,
time.
in location in Gdańsk, we have no problem with this. And most of cities in Poland have a problem with it. But it was the reason that high quality technology, IT, decide to locate in Gdańsk because we have good quality of fresh air, and this, it was the reason.
You see, things are connected.
I just want to add. I just want to add to what you were saying. Talent retention. I think if you look at the future, where are things moving? It's about how do you. I mean, it's cities that are really trying to foster an inclusive environment for innovation to retain talent, rather than having a brain drain out of those cities. And I think those cities that have firstly a connected, maybe a free Wi-Fi, whatever it may be, a connected online platform and connectivity for all of the citizens that live there, that's a good start to get them online. Second thing is fostering entrepreneurship and that startup ecosystem. I think as you start to look forward, it's not only about the corporate world, it's also about how do you encourage entrepreneurism in that city. Those cities that have that, they'll retain talent, and then that talent will choose to remain or develop those services in that city. And I think, you know, I myself, I've sort of grown up in Sydney, Australia, and I've been in Dubai now for 11 years. But when I do some comparison checks on just connectivity and infrastructure development, one is certainly moving at a faster pace than others. So I think over time, the next generation is going to be much more mobile than now. They're all online, they're all flying around, they're studying abroad, and I think they may not make the choice to come back home unless those services are available or the connectedness of that city is available.
Exactly. Okay. Is this it? Last word to me, I guess. I have the mic. Thank you again for this really colorful discussion about an issue that's complex but really important for municipalities right now to consider. You know, there's elections happening all the time, everywhere, and these are things that citizens care about. These are tangible things that really make a difference in citizens' lives. And I said earlier, I think all of us in the room are biased because we're at the local level. And this is where we see and feel the impact of our work on a daily level, on a moment-by-moment level. And so when we think about questions of innovation, about creativity, about smart cities, we're really understanding how this is changing the life of a citizen in our municipality and enhancing their ability to self-actualize, to grow and develop and evolve within our municipalities. And that's, I think, the challenge you've addressed. Certainly great examples from Gdansk and what you're doing with your member-based association, Mr. Dolberg. It's fantastic to have leadership that creates like an umbrella organization to promote this. And Helen, the example of it's just one way that you can create space that allows creativity and opens it up. And 500 acres is an incredible amount of space to do that. And thank you again for the systematic approach, the way you think about integration of all of these things, because this is what I think citizens ultimately are looking for: convenience and a comfortable form of life. So really diverse perspectives, but thank you for bringing it all together. And I'm sure tomorrow we'll continue this conversation on innovation and growth. So thank you very much. And thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Дякую, Katie та колеги.
In this audience, because in a couple of minutes this stage will be transformed and I will have the opportunity to invite our special guest of honor who will discuss with you, dear mayors, the way in which local municipalities, modern municipalities, become inclusive. You probably have seen him on TV, especially as of lately, and Michael Schur's show. Are there any viewers of this show? Because very few people among mayors appreciate this. A lot is going on in Ukraine, and a lot is being covered by the show. I'm here to fill in the interval, so after the panel discussion we'll have the final speech, and after that we'll have a collation and drinks. This is organized by Western NIS Enterprise Fund with Visa, Data Group sponsorship and great media support from our partners. Now I can name them. 1+1 TV channel, RBK, Zratelj Correspondent Business Magazine, Деловая столица newspaper, Voice of the Capital, Голос столицы, and the Ukrainian Truth, Ukrainska Pravda, online media. So tomorrow the founder of the International Summit, Mayor Summit, and the editor-in-chief of the Ukrainian Truth will You're the heroes of this. Please look at the screen. We'll switch off the lights and let's enjoy the today. I would like to approve.
Хочу звернутися до вас, мерів українських міст, для того, щоб ви створювали такі умови в Україні, які дозволятимуть українцям бути інноваторами саме тут.
Future is coming now. Believe tomorrow is today. I'm very glad that Ukrainian cities, they are very progressive in these initiatives.
Залишались лише десь на папері, в звітах. Саме тому сьогодні, вперше в Україні, ми пропонуємо підписати мерам українських міст маніфест мера-інноватора.
The final destination is the improved quality of life.
Дуже радий, що такий форум проходить в нашому місті. І буду робити як мер міста все для того, щоб всі інновації працювали.